Rockstar Games, developers, of course, of GTA 6, appears to be suffering from a full-scale internal civil war after a good old-fashioned round of union busting, now being apparently confirmed by an insider at the company. So the person in question here have offered to make it known that they are an insider with ID, and they are going to be, of course, anonymous in public, so there's a decent reason to assume this is probably actually authentic. But before we get to this one, which will be the meat of the pie today, what exactly is going on here? So, Rockstar Games announced that Grand Theft Auto 6 would be delayed until November of 2026, so a fair old while in the future right there. And this comes just about a week or so after a series of firings at the company, which many speculated were due to union-busting efforts, as apparently the Rockstar Games employees were just about within range of launching their own official Rockstar Games union. Now, there is already a union organization in the United Kingdom, which they are technically and can be a part of, but they were trying to create a specifically Rockstar Games union, and yes, of course, the proper one in the UK, the overarching one, rather than the specific Rockstar one, is socialist as fuck. Tends to be kind of a by definition sort of things for unions, frankly, as, well, unions are one of those things that once upon a time they absolutely had a very legitimate reason for existing. But today, due to the fact that pretty much everything they ever asked for has been enshrined in actual national law, the unions have become vestigial organs, more often than not leeches upon the branches and the employees they profess to protect. Not to mention that also, by their very nature and by damn near definition, unions tend to be very, very political as well. So, let's go on to the post here then. I've been reading a lot of discussions on here and elsewhere about the firing of more than 34 of my colleagues last week, 31 in the UK and 3 in Canada, and I've seen a lot of disinformation and lies that are really concerning, particularly concerning how so many folks are willing to believe the company's excuses. Last week, my colleagues who were in the studios were each individually messaged by HR for a short friendly meeting, and then the friendly guy said, "Hey, are you free for a quick chat?" Upon attending this meeting, they were handed an envelope with a short letter stating that employment has been terminated for gross misconduct regarding posts made in Discord. So, in the UK, due to, again, loads of protections being given to workers, you are not actually allowed to fire someone just because you feel like firing them. That is illegal. You must have an explicit, express, and documented reason for firing someone. But the quickest way to get somebody fired, as normally you are required to attempt to keep them on payroll, even if you don't need them, you need to offer them retrainment or restructuring, etc. You need to, in essence, build a paper trail that you've tried everything you can to keep them employed, and firing them is the last resort. But if you allege or state or can prove they have committed gross misconduct, then that is enough to fire them immediately. Now, gross misconduct is, of course, a slightly vague term, but it usually means something rather serious has happened, like a full-blown major HR violation or something like that. So this is apparently in regards to posts made in Discord, right? Keep that in mind for a little bit. They failed to provide any evidence when asked, nor was any stated in the letter, and did not divulge any other information or reasoning, and no other reason. They refused their right to union representation in the disciplinary meeting, which is against UK employment law, and a frog marched out of the studio with the meeting lasting less than 5 minutes. So, again, there is a overarching union in England, not a Rockstar union, but an industry one. And indeed, if you are a member of the industry union, you do have a right to have an industry rep be there with you if you're about to be getting fired like this. So Rockstar has already played very quick and loose with UK law here, which also indicate how serious they consider this. See, again, here's the thing. Unions right now tend to exist solely for the purpose of worsening a company's situation, and often for rather unreasonable reasons, frankly. So the majority of the corporations will view a union being formed within their company as something rather negative. Even extreme left-wing corporations have tended to grow exceedingly combative at the rumors of organizations like unions being formed within the company. So clearly Rockstar didn't like the idea of this. For colleagues who were not in the studio that day, they received a phone call from HR that lasted less than 2 minutes, telling them they were fired and that they'd received the same letter as above. I am aware of one employee who had panic attack this morning, and HR hung up on them during this panic attack, not caring at all about their well-being. These colleagues of mine were hard workers, spent many years at Rockstar in critical roles, with colleagues who have been at Rockstar for more than 18 years, and none of them have ever had a disciplinary in that time. They're not easily replaced and will certainly affect us in making our project deadlines. So, assuming this is all true, of course, why would they get rid of them? Again, it's due to the union side of things, and probably also, at least in part, due to the political side of things. Now, Rockstar Games is not one of the most woke corporations out there, but they've definitely shown some leanings over the years here and there, with changes made to previous games and a general sterilization of what was once a game literally made famous by being ridiculously irreverent and absurdly edgy. So yeah, there's definitely been an element of that within the company, and they would be the elements first and foremost pushing for unions. These are very senior artists, animators, QA testers, designers, programmers, and producers, including leads. All super talented people who are proud of their work over the multiple Rockstar titles, and all they wanted was the best for Rockstar and their fellow colleagues. Well, their fellow colleagues I might buy. Rockstar, Some of these members were off sick or recovering from surgery or on paternal leave, fired without pay, losing their careers and putting them into hardship in the lead up to Christmas, and even potentially losing their visas to work in the UK. Now that is also a rather interesting part, because that suggests that some of them at least were imported specifically for these jobs. Let's make this clear. I never saw any discussion leaking of Rockstar Project in the Union Discord. The only ever discussion was around unionization efforts and the working conditions at Rockstar. The Discord wasn't public, it was a private Discord group that only contained Rockstar employees and the IWGB union officials. So that again is the official Great Britain union. So, a gross violation would absolutely cover something like leaking company secrets, for example. That would be more than enough for a company to fire them for a gross violation. However, if they had explicit evidence of that, it is quite likely they would already have presented it, as this would be a good way to basically say, listen, we've got you, shut up, and leave right now. It is possible that they have it and that the poster is lying and that they did show it, but he claims that they did not. But what is more probably likely here is that somebody within this group, somebody who was perhaps invited but didn't like the tone of it, or perhaps even was a double spy, noticed it and sent the screen caps of the group where the employees were planning to unionize to the Rockstar leadership, who panicked, realizing what a union more often than not means for a company, especially one like them's, in terms of extra expenditure and extra restrictions placed upon them, and decided, nope, we may publicly virtue signal certain things of a leftist direction, but we're not going to let you do that. No. We're far more capitalist than so. This was union busting and nothing else. Everyone fired was a union member, that also predominantly from those who were on the union organization committee of each UK studio. that also, again, indicates to me that rather than being an actual gross violation, it probably was indeed union busting. Just 1 week before, the union had reached 200 members, taking us over the 10% threshold required to seek recognition and begin engaging in collective bargaining, allowing us to negotiate directly with management on the key issues that affect us: worsening crunch, inadequate pay, and inflexible working arrangements. So that then is the panic. Now, obviously, employees always want to be paid more, and companies rarely wish to acquiesce to that request. Inflexible working arrangements, that's probably things like being allowed to work from home, for example, as forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe Rockstar was one of the companies that allowed that during the COVID time and then rescinded it, wanting people to return to the office jobs, which, listen, personally, I have had precisely one good experience with a normal employee actually being able to work from home as effectively as the office. In every other case I've ever been aware of, both at corporations, at the family company that I've been personally overseeing, it just doesn't happen. It can happen, but it requires a very specific kind of person with a very specific kind of both moral compass and work ethic, which is rare. More often than not, when you allow an employee to work from home, their productivity tends to plummet. And worsening crunch. See, this is one of those things, crunch, right? On the face of it, I don't like the idea of crunch. I don't like the idea of, okay, listen, we've got to get this done. You've got to work extra, right? It sucks. Everybody knows. But there are also cases in which you've just got to produce something, right? Where if you are a part of a company that doesn't release that many games a year, in fact, not even yearly, and you are constantly burning money on paychecks, on benefits, etc., there are absolutely situations in which you've kind of just gotta get shit done. It is an unfortunate aspect of an industry that requires a lot of time to getting a product to market. And so long as it is within, and bear in mind as well, there are absolutely regulations on how many hours somebody is allowed to work each week on the state and governmental level, well, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how much overtime I do on occasion? It's one of those things, yet again, where companies often do engage in crunch. Is it good? No. Should it be avoided wherever possible? Absolutely. Is it sometimes necessary? Yeah. Now, of course, again, I cannot speak to the specific circumstances at Rockstar Games. Maybe it is even illegal, maybe, in which case, again, take it up with the government and so on, but they have fired over 34 of us now. There were 250 of us in that union employee Discord group. There is fear that if they get away with this, they'll have nothing to stop them from doing this again and again. Those who are lucky and remain for now work in fear. Fearful when talking to each other at the tea prep, fearful that we are next in line, and easily got rid of, too scared to go outside of the studio and talk or even acknowledge our colleagues outside of protesting in fear of reprisal. Morale in the studio is at rock bottom when we should be excited about what's to come over the next year. We're now totally deflated and our confidence in others is totally shot. Absolutely understandable as well. And it does kind of seem like Rockstar might have achieved what they wanted with this, which is truly heartbreaking. Part as for us in the union, all of our ambition was to make Rockstar happier, fairer, safer, and more equitable place. That's all. What has happened clearly shows that we care more about the well-being of our colleagues at Rockstar than the company does. And again, unions. Once more, unions had a place. They frankly don't anymore. And I have yet to see a single solitary union that has actually improved a company. They tend to be very parasitic organizations. Union remains unbowed and is fighting to win the reinstatement of every dismissed member of our staff at Rockstar through legal means and campaigning. The fight is critical. If Rockstar can get away with this, they will keep treating the workers with disdain, disrespect, and subjugating them to continued illegal treatment. Now, there also is the thing. Illegal treatment. which is precisely the point. If the employees do indeed believe, genuinely so, that these people were not fired for gross misconduct, then taking this to the actual legal system will be a far better option than the union, especially as you do not actually have yet an internal Rockstar union. Again, this is the thing. Instead of going to this organization, utilize the literal, actual, legally guaranteed rights you have as workers in the UK. And the fact that I'm presuming they are doing that, but also going with the union route, well, again, kind of speaks to the nature of a union, which often sells itself as absolutely critical, but in reality is little more than an intermediary in between you and the actual rights you have under your nation's legal system. So, let's speak a little bit more broadly on this, shall we? Grand Theft Auto 6 delayed until 2026. End of it. Was this predictable? Honestly, probably. These days, delays are a dime a dozen, especially on massive projects like Grand Theft Auto. Could it have something to do with the firing of these 30 people and subsequent protests? Absolutely, because you did just dump off a fair few of your people here, but would Rockstar do so if they were actually crucial to the operations of the company and might entail a lengthy delay, especially as this delay has cost the company, I think, something like 18% of their stock value, which is big, recoverable, absolutely, but big. Well, considering the damage that a union can do to companies, and unions have killed companies before, Probably unironically, yes. Again, my opinion on unions are very negative at this point in time, and we are also entering into an era where a lot of companies, and I've talked about this before, are probably looking to begin purging itself of various members within the organization that have certain political leanings. We've seen this with Netflix years ago, where they basically announced, okay, if you're not here to make entertainment, you're not welcome, get out. We see this with Amazon recently beginning to buy out contracts for employees they no longer consider to be, safe to have on board, shall we say. And Disney as well. There is now a uniform movement within the majority of industries to begin to rid themselves of individuals that may be harmful to the company, both from a union perspective and a political perspective as well. And yet again, if there is a single company out there with a single gaming entity out there that really does need to be aware of potential influences like this, it is Rockstar, and it is Grand Theft Auto. And I mean, the number of employees, so 10%, 200 people was 10% of Rockstar's employees. This is a gargantuan company. So even if one yet again assumes that the true intent of the union was merely to improve the working conditions of the employees, and hey, that might very well be the case, imagine something like a 2% wage bump in that company, or additional benefits, or being allowed to work from home, seeing productivity drop again, etc. Yeah, I frankly have a fair bit of sympathy for corporations engaging in these sorts of actions, because at this point, I mean, come on, look at the logo. Is anyone in any way, shape, or form confused as to what this is all about first and foremost? Not really. So, yeah, I'd admit, got limited sympathies on this one. Beyond, of course, Grand Theft Auto being delayed yet again, but as someone on a computer, and therefore who's only going to get the goddamn game a year after release anyway, c'est la vie. Do let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below as well, and until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.